let's look at another grasshopper game today. We went over one of their earlier titles with Champloo and their latest outing with No More Heroes 3. So let's look at that in-between era. We've already covered Killer is Dead, but of course there's Lollipop Chainsaw. And with the news about them bringing it back with its very own remake, guess there's no better time than now during our little grasshopper kick to remind ourselves on what's it all about while we wait. But first, this is combat overview. Here we go over the general controls, the main mechanics, what we use them on, and then seeing how it all comes together. So we have pom-pom bashes. They basically are light attacks, being our fast, low committal option. But what they really do is build stun on enemies, making them groggy, shown by these stars. This is very important since we fight hordes of zombies that will rush you down. So it's a good idea to use these since it keeps them still for a bit and lets you stay on the move a lot easier. You want to know what's pretty neat? I always liked how she'll do a whole follow through into some cheerleader moves if you don't press anything. Cool little details like this better make it into the remake. Yeah, there's also an upgrade later on to hold our pom-pom attack to charge up a butt bump, instantly max stunning. Pretty useful. And that's because groggy enemies can be set up for something else with our chainsaw attacks, which are very slow but hit pretty hard. At first you'll notice it doesn't keep them away for long. These attacks don't come out as fast like the pom-poms, so they'll kind of push through it all, finding any of those openings, making it a risky option to toss around a crowd since you'll get surrounded pretty easily. But that range and damage is good to deal them zombies. Again, risky but with some reward to it when used in the right situations, because once they have nothing left to cut off, then you can go for the final chop. But with our pom-poms making them groggy, this lets you go straight to the final blow, instantly killing them zombies both big and small. So the chainsaw isn't the best opener at times, but extremely useful on those stunned, groggy enemies. But again, we gotta use our stubbier pom-poms, making us go in a little closer to set up those easier kills later on. So there's some give and take. Now there's enders chaining between the two, but they don't affect enemy states how you'd expect. Pom-pom into the chainsaw will do this launcher looking motion, but it only knocks her block off. Two palms into the saw would do this forward lunge that looks like a stinger but doesn't send away. So they have the look but not the function. But again, that's because the chainsaw for the most part is brought in to finish off groggy enemies. So you'll be doing pom-pom attacks, and once you see them become groggy, then these enders let you go in for the kill. Okay, we also have these low slashes. Starts out with a sweeping crowd control attack that ends with a vertical multi-hit. It's great to hit those crawlers or any floored enemy for some hitbox specific stuff. Doesn't get too crazy with it like Nano Breaker, but it's a more usable chainsaw attack since it has less downsides for some quick crowd clearing uses. Especially the armadillo follow-up. Kinda really good. Onto defense, we have this dodge flip. It does cancel all attacks from pom-poms, chainsaws, the sweep. Doesn't matter if it's the startup, mid animation, and land on hit with whatever. It's very forgiving, allowing you to move on the fly at a moment's notice, except enders, so keep that in mind. But other than that, you can use on reaction. And yep, there's some solid iframes to it, which is nice. You can only do it up to 3 times back to back before having this noticeable end lag to it. Pretty standard. But that's not all, because there's even attacks out of it. We got a dropkick that sends an enemy flying, usually making him groggy, which sets up, of course, an instant kill, or you can just leave him far from the fight. It's pretty damn strong, but you'll be in recovery for a second. So it's useful, but risky. We have this diagonal head attack using our chainsaw. Pretty damaging, but it's best to hit those clusters for some crowd control. It's also my go-to option when I cancel an attack, to clear any nearby enemies before landing. Gotta make sure the ground is cleared, you know? And lastly, we have this down stab to hit those grounded enemies. So yeah, that even carries over here too. This is a super damaging attack to crawlers or any knockdown enemies. Okay, we're still not done. Because if you dodge into a zombie, not only is it a solid way to reposition, but also interrupts their attacks. It reminds me a bit of Bumblebee. And you probably guessed it, but yeah, we have a few options out of this. Situational leapfrog too. Doing the chainsaw attack afterwards would do this instant kill, slicing them in half. You have to be heavily damaged first though. And the other being this body slam to crowd control. This dodge is easily one of the highlights of the game, just having a good amount of options to do this or that. But yeah, no perfect dodges, no just defense like Killer is Dead, but I like how versatile this flip can be. to reposition 1 second while opening a few attacks afterwards. Pretty fun and kind of reminds me of Wolverine's lunge in that way. Yeah, we're mentioning Transformers, Wolverine. What are we playing? Alright, looking at the HUD, there's lollipops for health. Of course, we're gonna have something a little creative here. Always my favorite part with grasshopper games. Yeah, underneath we have these Nick cards. We get a little roulette to pick one of his support moves. These are limited use, but can stun whole crowds, setting up easy kills. In the bottom left, we have this meter to fill up with stars. Just gotta kill enemies to drop them. Once full, we can go into this buff state with full iframes and has our chainsaw instant kill. Of course, lets us clear the screen with ease, but also sets up easier sparkle huntings. Just gotta get 3 or more kills in one hit to get this, and any higher amount would just give even more coins. Best to save it when there's a really large group or powerful elite enemies around. Now with that money, we can buy permanent health increases, damage up, how far you'll home in with your attacks, and how fast you recover from a hard knockdown. But this is also how we get new moves to have fun with. From a drill follow-up in your chainsaw strings, a grab after your first pom-pom to crowd control with, even has different animations depending on the enemy type you use it on, which is pretty cool. There's different follow-ups out of your sweeping combo to get, and the general combo extenders for more damaging strings. And the shop is just constantly updated with more moves after each stage, so you're always adding something new to your kit. I wish I had videos to show you what they did beforehand, but there wasn't a move I regret buying, so it's all good. When it comes to enemies, of course there's walkers, who aren't too crazy on their own, but when grouped up, which they usually are, will do major damage and corner you if not careful. Some with bombs strapped to them and combine that with burning ones makes a dangerous combo. You can shoot that dynamite to have them explode a lot earlier instead of waiting for its timer. Yeah, we also have a gun called the Chainsaw Blaster. Just like how you expect, aim with the left trigger, fire with the right. There's football players who will charge up, shown by that blue aura. Then they'll zoom across the screen. You can dodge it, but if you're close enough, you can leapfrog them to stop that entirely. They're also super vulnerable to sweeps, cutting them down in size. Some with guitars to clash with when you attack them with your chainsaw, and they have armor too, so it's really not a good idea to use your slow chainsaw around them, so focus on stunning these first. And one's holding boomboxes to buff nearby enemies. There's also going to be some with names on them. These are the elites I mentioned earlier. They hit way harder and don't stagger either. Just use pom-poms or your sparkle or that butt bump. That's my go-to. So yeah, even though we're fighting zombies, it can be easy to think they'll be pushovers, especially if you've played Onichimbara before this. But nah, you really have to show these some respect since they put up a fight. And since they're in groups, you gotta use all your tools to stun them however you can while weighing out their pros and cons. So you can't just go in mashing chainsaw and get away with it. You gotta think a little here. And the bosses are pretty cool too, since they're all based on music genres, from punk, metal, psychedelic rock, and a few more. But yeah, they're all multi-phased fights, changing it up a good bit, just getting creative with its theming. And that's Lollipop Chainsaw. It's pretty fun. You play as a cheerleader who's part of a zombie hunting family who's also late to school one day that so happened to be taken over by, wouldn't you guess it, zombies. So with their trusty chainsaw and a boyfriend on her hip, well, whatever's left of him anyways, she's about to clean house. Well, more like her school, but you know what I mean. Playing it again after a few years made me appreciate it a lot more. And if you like Suda's action games from No More Heroes 1 to Killer is Dead, then you'll definitely like this one a lot too. From its comic book inspired art direction, the banter between Juliet and Nick having their funny moments, and that solid soundtrack with those hand-picked licensed tracks. I think it's a strong follow-up to Suda's style of tossing everything they can into it, from playing basketball, scoring three-pointers, to shooting our way back to home base, and literally mowing down hordes of enemies. No More Heroes 3 still has this, but that gameplay, man, feels like they went a bit backwards there. But yeah, here Lollipop has a good amount to its gameplay, making it one of their better action games. I kind of think this era was their best for hack and slash stuff, honestly. And yeah, it has some things we've seen in other action games. It doesn't take it as far, but that's okay, it doesn't have to. The fun part is just getting used to those ideas and mechanics. Plus it just gives you tons of ways to chop down zombies. You can't get better than that. All in all, it's just a laid back, easy going action game with a lot of charm that's having fun being just that, a video game.
You're already dead.
Easily up there with the best casual friendly action games, with its runtime lasting about 5 hours, which makes it even more approachable. So yeah, check out Lollipop for yourself because it's definitely worth sinking your teeth into.